Welcome into Power Plays presented by Bet365. I'm Tim Kalinowski, joined by Michael Leboff and Nick Martin. The three of us make up Line Change, Action Network's NHL betting podcast. We got to preview the weekend games, specifically the Saturday games, Sunday games. We don't have lines out quite yet because, well, that's going to be from teams playing, Friday, and, haven't dictated that yet. So Saturday is where we're at. We got a game 4 and the Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes, and a game 3 between the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. Looking at the odds here, boys, on Bet365. We'll start with the Eastern Conference. Leboff, I know it's hard for you to talk about it with the Rangers. Maybe they're just going to go 16-0 and win a Stanley Cup here. But in terms of wagering purposes, anything on this game?
Yeah, I like the Rangers here. Plus 130 or better on the Rangers. I think it's very playable. I'm a little surprised that this number hasn't come down at all. The Hurricanes were road favorites in games 1 and 2. They were obviously the favorite to win the series. They were the Stanley Cup favorite going into round 2. The Rangers have answered every question. It might not be a dominant series, but they've been the better team. I think are actually full value for their 3-0 win. They get the win in Carolina in overtime, and the line is barely budged. So I think that it's still opportunity here to bet on the Rangers. So 130 or better on New York to get the sweep here.
Yeah, it seems like even with adjustments from game 3 to game 4 in terms of the line, still value on the Rangers. I don't know how you couldn't after what you've seen in the first 3 games of the series. Nick, are you 3 for 3 and seeing it that way?
Yeah, I am. I think it is definitely just the Rangers or pass. We've talked about it. The Hurricanes have had more of the puck. They've had more of the shot attempts, but that hasn't meant like them having the better offensive chances at all. I think that it's even been more than just Shesterkin looking so dominant. What the Rangers are getting, going the other way is just equates to what Carolina's had. So yeah, I'd say 3-0 is probably a little favorable. Probably could be 2-1 Rangers with any kind of luck Carolina's way, but I'm not trying to take anything away, and that all works to the point of saying, how would you ever want to bet Carolina at this point? We've seen they're giving it everything they possibly have. They're working as hard as they can. Everything they've got is on the table. It reminds me a lot of this series versus Florida last year, only maybe even more so. It's hard to say that Carolina's just been unlucky. I wasn't surprised. This was kind of what our eye test said after last night's game. I wasn't surprised when Mike sent over Mike Kelly's data, which is from Sportlogic, and says that the Rangers actually lead on expected goals. I think that makes sense. They have had the better of the overall chances. It's been a lot of, work smarter, not harder from the Rangers. Carolina has just beaten their head against a wall, trying the same stuff that didn't work last postseason, same stuff that's not working this postseason. And yeah, if you traded the goalies, the results would probably be different, right? A lot of these middling chances from Carolina's suddenly have some chance of going in the net, but that would be a whole different ball game. And I think the Rangers are really confident, really comfortable with what they have been giving up in terms of chances against. It's been a lot, but it hasn't been a lot where they're like, it would ever expect it to go in on Shesterkin right now. So it feels like the Rangers are right in their wheelhouse. I don't know why you'd back Carolina here. And the one number, Bet365 still has Igor Shesterkin at plus 550 to win the Conn Smythe. I think there's some value at that. I feel really confident that he's going to be the reason he's the winner if they get this thing done. And they're plus 330 to win it all. So I think there is a pretty big gap there when there's very little chance it would ever not be him. I think if he went down, I know Quick had a pretty good year, but I think you'd have to hate their chances at that point anyways. So, and I mean, you look at the skaters, yeah, there's been some guys that have had great starts to the playoff. I don't think anyone's even close to providing the value that Shesterkin has. So that's kind of my favorite play of the game, would actually be going with that Shesterkin look. But yeah, I agree. I don't really think it's very hard to see the Canes getting out of this hole here.
Yeah, it's difficult. The Shesterkin play is it just feeds perfectly into how the Rangers want to play and how they have played, especially against Carolina. They're totally fine giving up volume of shots from distance that Shesterkin can see, and he's obviously dialed in and squaring up all those opportunities. But again, it's just like you said it, Nick, working smarter, not harder, and taking it. They're like, hey, you can go get 10 chances or 10 shots on one rush, and then we're just going to go beat you the other way and be opportunistic. And a bunch of guys that are used to playing playoff hockey and have totally risen to the occasion. So with that said, I'm going to go a step further and take Shesterkin to over 30.5 saves in this game. I think you're just going to see the same thing out of that type of play from Carolina. Again, the Rangers are pretty fine with that. And also, I don't mind a play on over 5.5 in this game. I think Carolina's goaltending situation is enough for you to raise an eyebrow. And then on top of that, in these games where these closeout elimination games, you can get the early goalie pull. So some opportunity for some freebies there on top of that as well. So yeah, it's going to take a lot for Carolina to turn the tide in this series. And I think the place probably to start would be being 0 for 15 on the power play. Pretty unacceptable when that's the number. You have to get your layups, especially against the New York Rangers. So we'll turn it over to the Western Conference now. Colorado and Dallas, the series at 1-1. Leboff going to Colorado, going to altitude. I mean, two teams in the same division shouldn't matter that much. How are you seeing this game?
Yeah, it looks like one that's really hard to call just by the betting numbers, right? It looks like the bookmakers have this right. I think that you can make really salient arguments for both these teams every time that they step on the ice with the way that they've dealt out these prices. One look I'll give some consideration to here is the game to go to overtime, and it's not your classic overtime bet where you're hoping the teams kind of just stay within touching distance of one another and that the bet is within play throughout minute 0 to minute 60. But this time it's just the fact that both of these teams can storm back. And we've already seen a 3-0 lead erased, almost a 4-0 lead erased. So I do think that whether it's in game, maybe if one of these teams goes out ahead by multiple goals going into the third period, whether it's in game or pre-game, I think that there are some avenues here for us to get an overtime game when the series shifts back to Colorado or Dallas, to Colorado for a couple games.
Yeah, obviously Dallas does a great job to avoid going into that 2-0 hole like they did against Vegas. Obviously, it'd be tough to dig out of against a Colorado team that gives you all you can handle, Nick. And Colorado in this postseason, they're over the total in 6 of 7 games. So 6-1 mark there. It feels like every game they get into, it's a shootout, and they're comfortable playing that style, Nick.
Yeah, I agree with Mike. I think this is one where it's pretty tough to feel confident that you have an edge one way or another. I entered this series thinking this is two teams that would probably be if they weren't going head to head, I think they'd rightfully be the favorite to win the cup. And if you look at the prices, that's what they're telling us, because whoever wins this series is going to move to being the cup favorite if they're healthy. So I do feel like it's a bit of a reach to try to think you have an edge one way or another. I was thinking I'd probably play the Stars in one of the games in Colorado, but the number looks right. I thought we might see it be a little longer. And I really think there's just too many positive arguments for both teams as well as too many question marks. I agree that I think the over is a pretty good look. The Stars have such a deep offense themselves, and with Marchment back in the mix, that's a really good top 9, solid looking power play the other night. And I think if anything, Georgiev was fine again, but the Stars offense have just kind of showed its teeth, and I think they can continue to take advantage of some of the depth concerns on the Avs. But with that said, it's pretty hard to see the Stars shutting down the Avs. So I kind of still think there's some value on the over in this game at -105. I feel like it's just like you're never going to see 7s in a playoff series unless it's really gotten out of hand, or even a juiced 6.5. But I kind of think we should be getting closer to those juiced 6.5s with how the Avs have played this postseason. And I don't really know if that's going to change. This is how they played when they won the cup. And I think that, the Stars are almost there. It feels like people are kind of sleeping on what their offense can do as they come out of a series versus a Knights team that, was incredible when they won the cup last year defensively. And I think was playing really good defensive hockey when they got eliminated this year. So I feel like we should continue to see pretty up-tempo, fun games in this series.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the over here. Absolute idiot brain trying to outsmart myself. Took the under in game 2. I tried to feel like I was, trying to short Colorado and say, hey, this is still the playoffs. These games should be lower scoring, tight defensively. But it seems like whatever game script unfolds between these two teams, Dallas goes up a couple goals. Well, that opens the door for Colorado to just, all out offense, take chances, take risks, which, when you have three future Hall of Famers carrying the play, you take your odds there. And then even if Colorado is filling the net to start the game, you say to yourself, well, Colorado doing their part is, halfway there to an over bet. So I'm going to be over the 6.5 here. I also wouldn't mind Colorado team total over 3.5. I think it's kind of getting at it a similar way. It's just really hard for Colorado to not get theirs. They've made really good goalies look pretty average, and maybe we start grading goalies on a different relativity scale when they're playing playoff series against Colorado Avalanche, because it seems like they make tough work for any netminder that they face. But in tradition, like we've been doing in online change during the Stanley Cup playoffs, we will end with everyone's favorite bet. If you had to pick one, what would you take? And I'll give you a minute to stew on it while I tell you that Power Plays is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365, 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and now North Carolina. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Iowa, T's and C's and restrictions apply. Michael Leboff, you're on the clock. What's your favorite?
Yeah, the Rangers plus 130 or better for game 4. I think that number should have moved more than it has throughout this entire series.
Nick?
I'm going to give an honorable mention to what I expect to be a play that I'll like in game 4 on the Panthers. I feel like if the Panthers lose tonight, I'm going to be backing them to bounce back. If they win and look good, I think I'll probably like the number. But my favorite play out of what's on there, I like Shesterkin to win the Conn Smythe at plus 550. I think that'd be the one play if I was just going to bet something today I'd want to lock in more on. Yeah, the one counter argument, the Rangers are probably going to play the Panthers and then a really, really good side out of the West. So I might even argue that their price to win it all is maybe, shorter than it should be. But I also think that the gap between their price to win it all and this price for Shesterkin to win the Conn Smythe is way too wide. I feel extremely confident that he'll be the guy if they do find a way to get this what feels like kind of a miracle run, get it home. I think it'll be Shesterkin that's kind of the guy. So yeah, I like that.
Shades of 94. Yeah,
We've
and
heard it
also
all week, right? Every possible stat you can come up with hasn't happened since 94.
and no matter what stat you bring up, actual numbers, history itself. Look, and also on top of that, the Rangers could be getting tough matchups ahead, but it looks like the series of teams that they could be facing are all looking like to be deep series, and teams that could be moving on but taking a piece out of one another as the Rangers continue to make light work, and we'll see if that's a back-to-back sweeps for them. My favorite bet, I guess we're making it all Rangers here, the Shesterkin over 30.5 saves. Maybe playing alt 35 or even 40 while you're at it. I think you're going to get a push from Carolina, but again, that's just how the Rangers want to play. 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. I'm Tim Kalinowski from Michael Leboff and Nick Martin. Enjoy the games this weekend. Once again, Power Plays is presented by Bet365. Enjoy, everyone.